Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Top Agent Podcast. I'm one half of your co-hosting team, joined as usual by Miss Stacey Regula, fellow eXp agent. Stacey, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Everything is good here. Now, our guest today is also an eXp agent from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I'd like to introduce everyone to Angela Porrelli. Angela, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are things going today?
Good. Can't complain. There's no snow falling, so that's always a good thing at this time of year.
Excellent. Well, out here it's actually melting again, so
We're
Yeah.
getting close to that. Yeah.
So we like to dig into kind of what makes an agent tick, but like to start way back at the start. So um, tell us a little bit about your past and what you did before real estate, because we often have, it's pretty rare that we find somebody that jumped into real estate as a primary career. It's usually something that came up later. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, mine kind of is. It was the primary career from the beginning. So when I was right after high school, if I back up a little bit, I traveled for a while. It was one of those international drama teams that goes into schools. So we were living out of a van and living the good old 20-year-old life, and met my husband at that time. And so that brought me to Saskatoon. We had our kids right away. We were married young. So I was a stay-at-home mom actually for quite a while they were little. And then when we bought our first house, we actually had a terrible experience. We were so young. We bought privately, had no representation, and ended up just kind of in a not a good scenario. Lots and lots of money had to be put into the house, and the house was left completely full of garbage, like right down to dishes in the cupboard. She didn't clear anything else. She'd gone AWOL. The lawyers couldn't find her. So we spent thousands of dollars just hauling stuff to the dump before we could ever actually make the house our own. So when my kids got into school full time, like I said, I'd been a stay-at-home mom. I started thinking, okay, what can I do? I don't want to just sit at home all day. I want to actually find something that can be a career. So I did just jump right in. I got my books when they were both in school and studied and got licensed back in 2007. And that's been it for me.
Well, that's a pretty incredible story, and you always hear those horror stories of the private sale, but you
Yeah.
don't really get a chance to talk to anyone that has firsthand experience and has now become an agent as a result of that.
Exactly. I figured I can probably help people avoid some of the pitfalls we hit. So,
Wow. Yeah, I had a similar experience when we purchased our first house. And I didn't jump into real estate right away, but it was definitely something that motivated me. So,
yeah,
um,
you realize the value there.
yeah. So do you primary rural real estate, or are you in the city there? Or,
Yeah, I'm in the city and I am strictly residential. I don't
right.
touch farm commercial. The odd acreage here and there, but I usually refer those off to kind of stick to my lane.
Nice.
Okay. So, based on what you just told me, 2007, what company did you go to right off the bat?
I went to Remax.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what drew you to eXp when it finally opened in Saskatchewan?
I was getting restless where I was at. And so I was starting to look around, deciding how I could kind of move forward if I wanted to either become a broker, do something a little more independent, start a team, or just carry on where I was, put my head down and ignore everything else. Because I figured brokerages are very similar for the most part when you come to the traditional sense. And I didn't think that necessarily just jumping from brokerage to brokerage in my city was going to do me any good. So I was trying to make that decision. And then a girlfriend of mine moved over to eXp. I had no idea she was going. We hadn't really been in touch in a while. She had been at Remax years ago and she'd flipped a few different places. So when she moved, I just called her and said, what the heck? Like, there's got to be something to this. If you took the leap, and that kind of made me take a second look. I mean, I'd heard of it, but it had only been here for a couple of years, so it wasn't very big. I'd kind of watched it grow in the US, but I didn't know a lot about it. So she just told me her reasoning, and it was a lot of pricing and the stock element. And I went, good enough for me. It's a completely different model from anything I've been at. I need something different. I need a change. So I just jumped with actually not knowing a whole lot at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you active in agent attraction? Like, do you have a fairly large revenue share organization, or are you primarily focused on selling real estate?
I didn't even fully realize the revenue share side until the first year I went to eXp Con. So, I mean, when you're there, if you pay attention to anything, as you guys know, it's like you kind of go, holy, the opportunity was incredible. So I started cluing into it a little bit more then. And at that point, I'd already been with the company for a few months. So I think I'm at about 7 in my downline right now. And that's just been organic. Like I don't go after people, especially in my market, because we've been a little bit saturated here with people calling. So right now, if you call anybody, even to show a listing, and you say, hey, I'm with eXp, if they don't know you personally, their first result is like, they just don't even want to hear what you have to say about anything to do with real estate, even if it's a listing or like a showing or something, because they're scared. So I don't go after anybody here. I am looking at setting up a lot of stuff. I have a YouTube channel as well. I haven't launched the attraction one, but I'm getting it all set up, getting a bunch of stuff recorded so I can start doing that sort of outreach more so. But yeah, so it's amazing on its own that it's kind of done that already. I was like, if I haven't been trying, and it's naturally grown to 7 people in the course of just over a year, I was like, okay, maybe I should put some effort into this.
See, I find that fascinating because our upline is primarily in your community, but different teams. So I know exactly what you're saying, and we've experienced the same kind of thing in Winnipeg. There's a lot of agents that will be like, whoa, but organically is kind of, we've been putting some effort into agent attraction.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it became about relationship building, and that's how we've grown our team.
Yeah.
But you did mention you had a YouTube channel, and you mentioned that you're moving forward with some other projects. I've seen you on TikTok. I've seen you on other platforms. What role do you think social media is now playing in the real estate business?
I think it's huge. So much bigger than what I would have originally anticipated. Like you start talking to people who are doing it regularly and the draw and everything from it that they're actually seeing leads off of it. They're seeing on the attraction side, they're seeing conversions from people that they didn't know when they're doing it regularly. I guess from my personal experience, even just real estate in general, I'm the kind of person that if I didn't need it I've got no problem being out there. This doesn't bother me to be on camera. But if I didn't need it for work, I probably wouldn't exist on social media. I would probably shut down all my accounts and just be done with it. So a few years ago, I knew that I needed to actually step up my game just on the real estate side. So I hired a friend of mine to actually start managing my account just to make sure that there were constantly things going out. I mean, she gets me to write the posts. So unless it's something general about, she'll do things like the color of the year or staging tips. She can pull that information. If it's anything to do with the market or me, I've written the post and she just starts fitting it into where things are going out. So seeing her take over my social media just on the Instagram, Facebook side, having posts go out regularly, I actually started to get business off of it. I'm not good at necessarily tracking. I don't ask everybody where they found me, but I had 2 people directly say, hey, I followed you on Instagram because I follow so-and-so. And my page isn't huge by any means, but it was actually making sense, like what she got out there. So when I saw that there was actually traction on that, I thought, well, I've got the content. I should probably start pushing it other places. And so that's like you said, now starting to push it onto TikTok and everything else. And then on the YouTube side, for probably a couple of years now, I've been interviewing local businesses. So not really anything strategic as far as trying to push too much information about Saskatoon, just kind of returning, a little bit of goodwill to the local community and trying to expose them. I did a few informational videos here and there about Saskatoon. And again, the channel isn't huge, but people just call you off of it just based off of something as simple as that. So again, having watched that this next year, I've definitely changed my strategy for it all. Like I'm going to carry on with what I'm doing, but in a much more organized manner, add in more information about Saskatoon. I've got that page specifically there for those leads. And then, I'll open just the attraction one because it seems like that's where people are. And if you're not out there, you've got to find another way to be in touch with them. So it's good reach for little money. So
yeah, that's awesome. So right now with the changing market, what are you doing to adapt to things?
Oh boy. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the biggest thing right now is I'm really trying to educate primarily the sellers. I find that they're having a hard time grasping that they feel like our market has really dropped, but it hasn't. It's just, as you know, when you don't have these crazy bidding wars and you start to see offers at a regular price point, we're still sitting way better than we were pre-pandemic, but the sellers are expecting
Yeah.
something higher. So it's trying to educate them. And as they come around and they start to see things, it's definitely helping out. But we're in a pretty good place. I mean, the Saskatchewan economy is really, really strong. So that's another education point as well. You've got buyers on the opposite side who are listening to the news. They're just terrified. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, the market's gone down 25%. I'm
Yep.
like, not here. Sorry.
Yeah.
You can think you're going to get things for a super, super good deal, but you've got to pay attention to the fact that real estate is local.
Yeah.
Like Saskatoon to Winnipeg is different. And I mean, we're obviously very different from Toronto and Vancouver and everywhere else. So I was
Yeah.
like, you've got to watch the information here and not just listen to the big news stories. So education right now, I find, is key because people just don't know what to believe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something we're finding here too. Like even from Winnipeg to rural, like everything, people watch the news and they panic and interest rates and this and that. And I think education and getting it out there and being creative about how we get it out there. So that's what you're doing. So
Now, you are an Icon agent, correct?
Yes.
Nice.
So what advice would you give to somebody looking to be a top producer?
Systems, straight up. I think they've got to put in the basics, put in the systems, and just put in the time. I mean, once you get a lot of that stuff in place, and it's not that I do it perfectly by any means, but I noticed a big difference. So again, like I said, I started, my kids were little, and I chose the career so that I could really put them first. As they got older and got a little bit more independent, especially into high school and once they graduated, I thought, you know what, I can really start to see what I can do with my business because I had done very well. I was very happy with it. I was like, but I knew I could do more because at that point, it was my career, but I wouldn't necessarily say I had treated it as a business. I hadn't done specific business plans and put specific systems and goals in place. It was just kind of, it had naturally grown really well. So once I started to do that, it was really fun to see it just jump. It pushed it to that next level. And you can really start to track, if you're staying in contact with your database, reaching out regularly just to see how it grows. And I think that if you can learn those basic systems and you actually implement them, I actually believe anybody can do this because it's consistency and that wins out over anything else.
This is a great point.
Well, are we on to the fun one, Stacey?
Yeah.
All right. I'll kick it off. So this is where we get into some more lighthearted stuff and maybe one really tough one, but we won't make you nervous about that. So the questions we have for you now will leave us a little bit of insight into you, perhaps. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, that's a good question. I watch a lot of movies. My son is a film student, so we are dealing with film stuff all the time. But the only movies I really go back to on repeat are Christmas movies. I'm a really big Christmas fan. So one of our repeat movies that we love is Just Friends, Ryan Reynolds, that it was filmed down in Moose Jaw. We love that one. So I'll put that one as one of my top picks because there's not many movies that I watch over and over and over again, but that one gets a repeat every year.
Oh, you're speaking my language here, especially with Christmas movies. So it's going to be like, I haven't seen Just Friends.
Oh, really? You need to look that one up.
I've not seen that.
I don't know.
That's like every year it's on. Yeah.
But I make my youngest daughter watch, Christmas Vacation, It's a Wonderful Life.
Come on.
All the classics.
I love
exactly. And it's funny because my son, who's now 22, he's out in Vancouver right now. And this is the first year that he hasn't been like doing school from home or something with COVID. And every year for years and years and years, starting mid-November, he and I probably watch at least a Christmas movie every week, if not 2 or 3. We'll find like random ones, but we go through all the basics, all the old ones. So now he's not here and he's already been planning which ones he's going to hammer in as soon as he gets home on the 15th. So it's going to be a lot of movies come mid-December we'll be catching up on, but I love it.
Yeah.
Nice. What is your favorite thing to do when you're not doing real estate?
I love the gym. I'm there pretty regularly. And if I'm not doing something like that, then I'm probably just hanging out with my husband or friends or something. And yeah, nothing crazy otherwise, but gym, travel.
So maybe you could take Ryan up on the arm wrestling challenge.
Not against him, maybe somebody else.
Not me. I work out, but arm strength is not my thing.
Yeah.
What book has had the most influence on you?
Oh, I've got a list of books. I would say immediately the 12-week year, that was one of the ones that kind of transformed how I was doing my business, by Brian P. Moran, because he really breaks down how to set your goals, take them into bite-sized steps, and just implement them. And actually, I teach the business planning course in the New Agent Bootcamp, and it's all based off of that. I've got PDFs, I've got a binder where it's printed out, and quarterly you're going through and just like writing your goals every day. You've got to write down what you've been doing towards achieving them. And it just makes it actually manageable. You know, when you make too big of a goal, it's like, okay, well, where do I start? How do I do it? And this brings it into a planning stage. So I would say that would be one of my number one. I also really like the Miracle Morning ones, the Whole Savers element, if you've read those. And I love The Compound Effect as well by Darren Hardy. Those are probably three of my top right off.
They're now on my list.
Okay.
I always write them down.
Let me know what you think. And then I'll take book recommendations too. They're always playing in my car.
Yeah, everyone's got some good book recommendations. Yeah. So, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Sorry.
In real estate or in general?
In general. Or
well, I guess it kind of covers both. When I was first starting out, I had some more seasoned agents tell me, they said, always take your personal schedule, put it in first, and then book your work around it. And as you guys know, that's hard to stick with 100% of the time. But if that's kind of your main focus, it definitely helps make things more manageable. It helps you not get lost in the shuffle and stuff. And that would probably be one of the best ones I received. So
nice.
That's a really good piece of advice, and it is my favorite question, and it happens to be our last question.
Okay.
It is the favorite question that we ask on this show because there is so much wisdom that comes out of those answers that if people just watched, and I'm not encouraging this, if people just watch the last 3 minutes of every show, they will get something amazing out of these shows.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a smart question to ask, actually.
They make good shorts for YouTube, so.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, Angela, that is it for us. We appreciate you so much for coming on here.
Thanks for having me.
Wish you all the best.
Yes.
And we will see each other again soon, I think. Probably. Are you going down to shareholders?
I am.
Okay. I plan on going this time.
Good.
All right.
Perfect. We'll make sure we meet up.